to work in a certain way, but how can you make sure that at that particular moment and even in the long run, the feature behaves as it should, right? So what that would mean is I have built a particular feature and then I've thrown it to um, the people within my team, and I then tell them, okay, add in your own features, but try not to break this thing. I won't at every point in time go back to go back to this feature and be doing like a manual test. Imagine an app as big as, what would I say, an app as big as you've heard of maybe Slack, right? And then you want to go and test the authentication feature every time you work on, let's say, a messaging feature or an image upload feature, right? It's going to be tedious. It's going to be time taking. It's going to be stressful, right? Now this is where testing comes in, right? You write some automated tests and then you generally make it verify itself automatically, right? So generally with testing, there are a few. I'm going to try and list them off the top of my head. But let me first of all, okay, let me just try and do that with this, and I will let me try and share my screen. So I'm just going to share my VS Code. All right, I have this little window open on here. All right, and I would say for testing can be broken down into the manual tests and the automated test. All right, and then this can then be the automated test itself can then be broken down into unit testing, widgets or component tests, testing. There's the integration test, and there's another one called the golden test. All right, now people don't hear of this one very often, and I would not. I'm just going to give a brief of everything, but I won't dive too deep into that except unit testing. Right, so unit testing, I would enter it deeply, but on the surface, it's testing a block of code. Widget testing or component testing, as the name implies, you are testing your components or your widgets. Integration testing is more or less testing the entire flow of the app, going as if you are testing testing it in a real world situation, right? That means actually running the app and letting it go through the entire or the presets flow. And then there's golden tests, which in a way compares the output of your code to a reference. In this case, you can do something like comparing your the output of a particular screen to an image and seeing that it's looks alike. Yeah. So now we're going to go into unit testing. Like I said earlier, it's testing a block of code, right? Testing a block of code, that's it in the most basic form, right? Now we go to the why, right? Now I've also given I've given a brief about what's it called, an analogy to basically make you understand the why, right? But to go by it again, you'd want, first off, can everyone still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, good, thank you. All right. So in the analogy, right, we're making sure that the unit test, or rather with testing in general, a block of code works as it should, right, at that current moment and even in the long run. All right. So that's the reason for the why, or that's the why. In cases where you are working either alone or you're working in a team, you wouldn't want a particular feature that you have marked as concluded or marked as done to start having errors, start having issues. um, when you make either a new feature or someone else who works on the code base. So there's also going to be this question, or rather two questions you would have to answer. Not now, but hopefully I remember to ask it at the end of this, which is, do you agree with the why, and do you think testing is important? You can streamline it to unit testing or testing in general. So just keep those questions in mind as we are going through this. Try and be formulating your answers. All right. So that's the why. I guess to write it down is going to be, let me use the word long. All right. Now we're going to the how. And for the how, I'm going to start I'm going to start from small and go into the harder or the more, let's say the more complex ones, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a Flutter project on my terminal, from my terminal, which generally you can't see. CD, I need to go to my desktop and then do Flutter create tests class. All right, and it's going to create a test class directly on my desktop, but that should be fine. I am just going to copy all of this, and then I'm going to drag this into this, and now you can see. Yes, I trust the author. You should be able to see the project open now. Let me know if you can see it. Can everyone see it? And please also confirm if the font size is large enough for you to see. Anybody?
Yes, we can see, but can you just increase the font size a bit there?
Okay. Is this okay?
Yeah, quite better.
Okay. Good. This is quite large for my eyes, but we'll manage. Right. So what I am going to do first is to get rid of all comments so that we can work with just a small. Right. So why is it showing me red? That's strange. This. Have another. Yeah. So basically, this is the default. Flutter app. Alright, and we'll be starting with this one. I know in most documentations, this is what they use to start. Yes, we will also use it to start today. Right, and we all know how this looks like. It's a counter app that if you tap on a floating action button, right, it increments the count. Yeah, that's what it is. Now we want to write a unit test for this. Right, not for this. We want to write a unit test. What is? Why? Because it's a block of code. Right. This is a block of code. Can we actually write the unit test for this? We can, but we might need to make some changes. Right now, there's the concept of private or private methods, right, and private variables. So with this, it is going to hinder our test, right? So for us to be able to test a block of code, we generally want to make sure we can access both the code and the parameter and some of the parameters that we are actually going to be using, right? Now it's still quite vague, it's still quite wide at the moment, but let's take it like that. Very good. So let's do a switch like this. I would create something called a home view model, right? And it's going to extend a change. It's going to extend a change notifier, all right? So let's see if my so this is what I want to do. Yeah. So this is what I want to do currently, right? So we'll work with this for this initial starting. We're going to make a change to this code, and then we'll run the code to make sure it all still works out as it should, right? I'm going to put in what's it called? Let us try. What can we try? I want to put in a listener, or rather something that can actually what's this called again? Is it value? Okay, the value listenable builder. Let's try that. It does take a value, right, that would need to be updated, and we'll put that as an int. All right, and this generally should be a builder, which means we need a mistake. We would wrap this with a builder instead, and then put it as a value listenable builder that has this and has, I think, a value and a child. Yeah. And we also want to pass in the value that we are listening to. All right, the value listenable builder. I'm gonna make this a value notifier that has an int, and then it is going to have an override of a call to super.value. Super is 0, and then our value is going to be plus plus. We're not making use of counter anymore. This is what we are going to use. Now, just to break down what I've done currently. I have made this variable here.
Hi, Chris. Please, do you mind sharing your screen? I don't want to look at it because I'm recording this class.
Oh, yeah.
Recording will stop. Okay.
Okay. Reshare my screen. It's frozen on your end.
Okay.
Okay. So let me do that. All right. So let me know if you can see the screen again. Yeah. So we're back again, right? And I was explaining what just did, right? Which is going to be this. I'm going to carry this by now. VM is equals to this, and put this, and then put a view model in here, and then call view model dot increment counter, and then have this to be view model as value. Did someone put up something? We have a question.
No, not a question. Your screen looks like you zoomed in, or
I zoomed back in.
yes.
No, I didn't, but let's try that again. Is it better?
Okay.
Is it
I think it's okay, but I can see some free space around it, so that's why. So that's okay. It's better now, sure.
Okay. Just someone confirm if this is still okay for everybody. Just do like a thumbs up, or you can respond. All right. Good. All right. So we have this, and then let us do a very, very good check to make sure that. Okay. Let me do this. Let me share more parts of my screen so that we can get to see everything that is being.
Sorry, and also Chris. Sorry, are you beside fan? Because
Oh my God!
I
yes.
hear
I actually forgot that happened. Hold on. Okay, so I'm going to reshare my screen now. I'm going to share like the entire screen. Right. Now we should be able to see the code. Amazing. Now let's drag this all the way over here, all the way over here. All right, so now let me know if you can see my screen now. And now that I'm no longer on the screen, people will have to unmute and be responding to me. So can everyone hear me? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Thank you very much.
Yes, can see your screen.
Yes, wonderful. I like hearing people's voices like this. So yes, if you can unmute, do unmute and respond when you can. All right, so I did something. So what we did here was to make these values redundant. They are no longer being used. And now let's run our code. So while that is running, I'll do a brief explanation like I was doing. We have removed the counter and the increment value that were in the state class of our homepage, right? And we have created a view model for it and put in the increment counter. But since now we make use of a value notifier, our value in this case is this. Our counter in this case is our value property, right? One other thing that we should take note of, I think that's everything, right? So we have changed the code, but the functionality should still remain the same. The value listenable builder takes in a type of a value notifier, or rather of a value listenable, all right? And anytime that value or the reference value in the value listenable class or in the notifier or in the change notifier or in the view notifier or the value notifier changes, it will rebuild whatever is in there, right? So it's still going to perform the same thing as a set state, right? Think of it as using a state management, but this time we're not using any state management package, right? We're just trying to replicate the way it works. Yes. So while this builds, okay, amazing, it's done. All right, so let's just make sure everything works as it should. Our value is still increasing. We do a refresh, our value is still increasing. Wonderful. Now we have a 30 minutes mark, and then let's enter our tests. All right, now we have, hold on, this guy in here. All right, by the way, the test file always has to be in the test folder, and it always has to be suffixed by the word or the underscore test, right? So any test you are creating, it must be like that. We are having our view model underscore test, so it must be suffixed by it. Yes. So first off, let's see, does this still work? It should still work. Let's see, where's my test tab? Yes, so it still works in the sense that it is a widget test, but it's not what we're focusing on. All right, so we're going to go with our view model test. And first off, there are some things that we want to know. We want to understand what we're testing. and why we're testing it. All right. So what we're testing, why we are testing. All right. So the first question is, what are we testing? We want to test this block of code. This block of code is inside this class. All right. So we have to put all those values in there. All right. So what are we testing? The first is to actually create the void main. This is the entry point to the test that you'll be the test that you'll be writing. Yeah. Now there's going to be a bunch of autocomplete or code suggestions by my autocomplete AI, but we will not take everything that it is going to give us. Right. And yeah, we want to test. Yeah. We want to test, and then this is the syntax for it. Yeah, we've gotten past the first point. We've put out, okay, let's also put in what we want to test. We want to test our view model. Hold on. So we want to test that our view model, or a method in our view model, does what it's supposed to do. So the first thing we want to do is to create the view model. All right, and then we're going to have to import it. All right, so now what do we want to test? We want to test the method here. We want to test this method, but why are we testing it? We want to ensure that when this method is being called, the value property actually increases. Yeah, so that's what we want to test. Now let's be very descriptive about it. Home view model value should increment by, I hope I can spell increment correctly, increment by 1 when this guy is called. Right, so that's what we're trying to test. Yeah, so now we know what we want to test or what we are trying to achieve. This is what should happen, right? Why should it happen? That's more or less within the in this case, it's within the product requirements, right? That's why it should happen. Now we can write it, we can do like a set of basic tests, right? Let's do one. Yeah, let's do that. We expect that the vm.the value should just be equals to 0. We haven't done anything on this code, but we expect that this should happen. All right, and now let's run this, and let's cross our fingers and hope that it actually runs. Oh yeah, it did. Very, very nice. All right, so this is our first step. We want to first ensure that yes, at the starting, it's 0. All right. I want to put it should start at 0. Good. And then we want to call increment, and then we want to expect that the value should now have increased by 1. Do you get? So call increment counter once. And how do we do that? vm.increment counter, right? And then now we want to verify that it should now be 1. This is what we're trying to do. Yeah, I know that our suggestion is bringing it out for me, but yes, it's bringing it out in a very good way. So we try to run this now and see what happens. It runs. Yeah. Now let's say we add a particular thing to this. Someone comes to touch our code and we'll be like, yes, instead of doing what's the code again? What's it equals to 2? Yes. Someone comes to touch our code, yeah, out of in a hurry or while testing something and forgets to change this back. And then you have your test as part of your your requirements before a particular feature goes live, or before a particular merge happens, a particular push happens, a particular merge happens. And then you run this again, and now it's going to show an error, because what you expected that 1 should be there, but right now the value is increasing by 2. Do you get? So this is at the base how a test would save you from unnecessary damage. All right. So just to make sure our test passes again, we are going to put it back to 1 and then just verify that it actually runs. Yeah. Now we've been scattered with this right now. We can actually try to make this. Okay, first of all, before I go in, is everyone still following?
Yes.
Okay, good. Oh, okay. A lot of people are using thumbs up. I'm not on this screen, so you people should just try and help me. Let's talk. Okay. So we're back to this. Now, this is kind of, I'll use the word, it's out there. I mean, this is not having any particular structure that you can say you want to work with that would aid or guide your testing. All right. Now, to aid with this, there's something called the 3 A's. All right. You arrange. Yeah. It's called the 3 A's. Oh, I forgot to put 3 A's, and I know this AI is going to want to say it before me, right? So it's called the act, the arrange, the act, and the assert, right? So what that means is we arrange our values first, right? We then act on it, and then we assert that whatever is to happen actually happens, right? Arrange, act, and assert, like I said. All right, so let's try and follow these guidelines for this test. So first off, we want to arrange this all within a test. When you say arrange, you want to arrange probably your values. At the point where we get to mocks, you want to arrange what your mocks should do, and arrange whatever thing that comes to mind that relates to the test. Then you want to act. That means actually make or perform an action that you want to test against, right? You perform the action, do all the setup that is required before the action, you are acting on it, and then you assert that everything you want. You can either there's the expect, like we've used here, right? We're also going to see the verify. These are all things that assert that a particular thing works or behaves as it should. All right, so we're going to change this, and the first should be arrange. Arrange. And we're going to move this in here. Right, it's a variable that we are actually testing against. All right, and this is it in here. Now, in this case of this one, there is nothing that we need to act on before we assert that it is 0. So our act clause is actually empty. Yeah. And now the last one is to assert. And what are we asserting? That it should start with 0. Yeah. And now we are trying to do another one, which is we have another set of tests to do, which is to make sure that upon the increment counter, it actually increases. Yeah. Now we can do another arranging, but we don't want to create this that has already been created again. So our arrange is empty. All right. Our act in this case now is not empty. Our acting is calling our increment counter once. Yeah. And then our assert is asserting that it should now be 1. Right. And let's see this run again. It still gives us the same green flag. Right. But then again, we are testing a unit of code. But units of code can have multiple things that need to be tested in it. Multiple use cases, multiple I'm going to use the word behaviors that need to be tested within a particular unit, right? And we can do something like that for this. Yeah, we can try to arrange this even a step further, all right? And now I'm going to introduce the concept of a group. All right, now for this group, we're going to start at the very base. We are testing our home view model, all right? And inside our home view model, excuse me, we are going to be testing this within our home view model. So now we can say value should increment by 1 when this happens, right? But notice that inside this particular flow, we are testing 2 values. We are testing 2 behaviors, right? The initial one and then one after we have done an act, all right? So we can split this actually again, right? And before we actually split it, let's come back to here and imagine there was something called a decrement counter. Is that a word? Let's hope it's a word actually. All right, and then we're supposed to do this by 1. Yeah. Now we also want to have a group relating to the method increment counter. So what do? We go around that group route all over again, and increment counter. I'm gonna take this. All right, and now our tests can actually be moved in here. All right, so we have a home view model, we have the increment counter, and now we can do all our tests in here. But let's still make this even better, right? I'm going to do this. Okay, I'm going to do, you know what? Let's leave it to how it is right now and come back to it later. All right, now we want to test at first for the initial test case, which is our meeting is going to end. Mercy, how is it going to be?
Yeah, I'll create a new link. Just continue.
All right, good. So at initial value should be 0. Yeah, and then at initial value should be 0, and we can still go ahead and do our normal arrange, act, and assert. Yeah, but there's no act, right? And then for the second case, value should increment by 1, when called, right? Or we can structure this better and put it as when called, value should increment by 1. Now, when you're saying when called, you can just limit it to the group, the method name from the group, right? So when this is called, the value should increment by 1. And what do? We can have something like this again. And right now we have created, just for one method or for one block of code, we have created 2 use cases, 2 behaviors that we are trying to test against. And now we're having 2 tests. Yeah. Right. So this is at the very base what a structure that we'll be following, still going along with this. So I'm going to stop at this point and say, okay, we have 14 minutes till we send the next link. Are there any questions so far on this? I think I'll take about 2. Oh, is that how we do it, Mercy? Can I ask the questions now? Or can they ask questions now?
Yeah, you can ask questions.
Oh, okay. All right. So are there any questions right now before we proceed to the next phase? All right. Augustine.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I followed through, and so I think I understand to this point. But I think I missed you for a second. Can you slide back to the your screen is frozen.
Oh, it's frozen.
Yes.
Um. Okay, that's the link. Let me reshare my screen while we are still at it.
Okay. Okay. Ah, um.
Is it showing now?
Yeah. Yes. It's showing now. Yeah.
Okay.
So I wanted to know the essence of having it in a group. So that's I think that's the only question I have. So I think we have one and second.
Okay. So uh, to answer that, okay, so there are two groups in here. There's one for the actual class and there's one for the method. Right. Now it's just a way of, at the very base, it's a way of ordering your tests. Right.
Hmm?
When you're having a larger code base, you're having multiple classes, you're having multiple methods within the classes, right? You want
Yes.
to be able to tell, okay, I am running for this particular method, I'm running for this particular class, right? Or for any other way you want to group it, right? I am just running for a particular group. Yeah. Um, and okay, for this one right now we're having the increment counter and we're having the decrement counter. This is not being called yet, but it's
Yes.
just in there as a feature we are going to implement in an imaginary. Yeah. And you don't want to just have all your tests out there and be like, well, at initial this could be 0, at this should be 0, right? And then when decrement counter is called, let it come back to -1 or come back reduced by 1, right? You want to be able to tell, okay, yeah, I'm running a particular set of tests for a particular method, or I'm running a particular set of tests for a particular class, right? So with this one,
Yes.
I have like a duplicate of this and have like decrement counter. So we are all tests inside this group are going to be for decrement counter.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can
Okay.
run a group, run the individual tests. Yes. So
Okay. Then.
all right.
Yeah. Understood.
Any other questions? All right. So we would move on to something even more complex. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go into one of my already existing code base and pick out a service level file. All right. Now the service level file is something I would say all, if not most of us, would have used or would have needed to use at a point in time. Right. But before I do it, this second section, right, is going to introduce a couple of things. It will introduce, number one, a more complex situation where you're having both success and failure cases. It's also going to introduce using mocks and sorry about that. And it's also give me a minute, guys. And it's also going to introduce, I've said it's going to introduce success and error cases. It's also going to introduce mocks, and then it's also going to introduce dependencies in this, right? So the dependencies could either be dependencies that you have generated yourself, or it can be plugin or package dependencies. Right. So I will just do how do I do this? I'm going to go into my file folder. I'm going to go into documents. I'm going to go into programming. I'm going to go into Flutter. I'm going to go into, okay, let's look for Writerify. I'm going to go into lib, go into core services. All right, just don't bother with this right now. And I'm going to pick up media service. All right, I'm going to pick up media service. And I'm going to see if I can drag this. Did it come in? I doubt it did. I'm going to try that again. And I'm going to paste that in the lib folder. Right, okay, you didn't touch this. Amazing. Right, so with this, we are having an abstraction for this, an abstract to structure a blueprint for our media service, and we're also having the actual implementation. And the implementation now depends on a package dependency called image picker. Right, so what we're going to do is bring that in. We are also having logger. I'm going to get rid of this right now because it's going to be a hassle to bring in. All right, I'm going to remove this. I'm going to remove this. And I will turn this to an exception. Right, and an exception only takes in a dynamic message. Right. Yeah, I'm just gonna do this for now, right? And then I'm gonna do the same thing with this, turn it to an exception and remove this. Yeah, so this is what we are going to use. So first things first, I want us to take note of some things. There's a principle called the solid principle, which most of us would have heard, right? And one of the terms in the solid principle has to do with is it open close? Yes, open close principle. But that's not even what we're looking at right now. This is more towards coupling. Yeah, it has come up before. It's called at a very bad disadvantage, it's called tight coupling. On a good part, it's called loose coupling. All right, so basically, yeah, let's just say loose coupling. Right now, there are times where we want to use a package and then we come and we do this. Find our image picker is equals to image picker. Right, this is what we're going to use right now. And yes, we want to test this service, this media service. Right, now we are going to go into our tests folder again, and we are going to, like usual, create a media service. And then remember, we also have to suffix it with an underscore test.dart. Yeah. Right, and now we.
Hi Chris, can we move to the next? Can you use the next Google Meet now? I think we just have like 5 minutes left in this.
All right.
So I guess I've sent the meeting link in the chat. So let's use that.
Hi, please can you resend the link?
what, guys? I think I have only one friend in this place, so the rest of you are going to have to find a way to settle our scores. All right. Can you confirm, Mercy, if people are still in the other? I'm in the other. What do you call it? The other call. Okay. Second one. While we still wait, I think we have about 5 minutes. Oh, sorry, about 3 more minutes. Right. So for the second one now, Afrobeat. Oh, sorry. I'm going to spread it out. Nigerian music or foreign music? Choose one.
Foreign music.
Okay.
Nigerian music.
Okay. Can't I have both? Can you imagine? You have to pick one in this case. I want to know who are my friends and who are not my friends in this place.
Foreign music, I beg.
Okay, interesting. Ahmed, are you there?
Yeah, it depends again.
It depends. If you were to pick one, let's say gun pointed to your head, pick one.
If it's a UK drill, I'll pick a UK drill.
I see that Precious is the only person that is constantly not being my friend on this. Precious, we have a beef to settle. All right. So for us that like actual foreign music, you made a good choice. And then for Ahmed that likes anime, you made a very, very good choice. Don't mind the rest. All right, so I'm just going to share my screen again. I think it's 2 minutes, but I think we can make, or some others can join in at a later time. Yes. So let's share this again, and let's come to this part. All right, so let me know if you can see my screen. Can anyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right, good. All right, so just as before, we're going to go with everything we've learned in the previous, or rather from this part, we're going to take it into this media service test. Now, the first thing we want to create is actually our group that says we are testing our media service. All right. And this is quite a lot, but we then want to, what's it called? We are testing media service, and we are testing 2 methods in this: get image and get video. All right, we can have one for get image, and we can have another for get video. All right, and now we're going to go with our first test. Now, remember, we always have to have a concrete goal for every test that we are writing. Yeah, we need to have a concrete goal for it. Now, look at get image, and we want to test. Let's just say that if we successfully pick an image, we should get a file back. Yeah, that is one tangible thing. The file should not be null if we successfully pick an image. All right, so let's test for that. When called and image picked, we want an image picked, it should return a file. Yeah, so that is one concrete use case. All right, and then again, we are going to go with our act, arrange, act, and assert. All right. So now, first of all, what do we want to arrange? We need to first off instance class. Yeah. So I'm going to use a final because it's not going to change. Final media service is equals to media service. Then what other thing do we want to arranging here, right? We want to call this, yeah, and then we want it to return an image, right? So that's at the very tip. That's what we want to do, right? So yeah, this is actually what we want to do. And let's just say for this case, we want from gallery value to be true, right? So from gallery is going to be true. It's not, is it get image? It's get, why is it get image? Wow. Did I make that mistake? Interesting. So we're going to change that to get image. Okay, actually, the mistake has been there for some time. All right, so get image. I should change that later. All right, so it's a constant, and then we have this, and then we want to verify, or rather expect. We want to verify that our result is a file. All right, or rather, is an instance of a file. You know what? You want to make sure that the type itself is a file. Here, what we can do is to do maybe a runtime type and say it is, it's a file. And I hope that it works. Right. This is at the very bare minimum. It's a good, what's it called? It's a good trial, right? But we are going to face some errors with this, right? We are going to face some errors with this. Now, remember, we are making use of a plugin dependency, right? Now, the plugin dependency is this, right? But with the way we have set it currently, there is no way. Okay, let's go this way. We are making use of a plugin dependency image picker. And image picker has a function pick image that the actual implementation then goes into the native side, calls our platform or calls our method channel, and then does something, right? But this test that we are running right now is in isolation from this device, which means for our tests, there is no platform dependency, right? There is no way to say, okay, I want to do a prediction of what would happen if this is code, right? Now, in our case, this is where the mock comes in. With a mock, you are able to tell whatever your actual class in focus, right? You're able to tell its dependency how to act, right? You tell it how to act, and then when the test is being run, it's going to use the way you have told it to act to make sure that everything actually goes smooth. It's a little, might be a little confusing right now, but as we go on, it would get much clearer. Okay, so first off, we want to make sure we are able to use what they call a mock for this, right? Which means this currently is tightly coupled because we can't change our dependency out of it. We can't change the version it depends on, right? Now, what we want to do is to actually make it something like this. This is one way to do it, right? Another way to do it would be to not have this at all, but rather to make it constant, to make it what's it called, required rather. All right, so if it's going to be like this, it's going to be that we are always at every point in time, we are going to be, anytime we try to create an instance of this class, we would pass in the value of our dependency. What that means is when you want to create final media service, we have to do a media service and then say what this picker would be. And with this one right now, we can actually just pass in the value of our dependency, right? The object or the instance of our dependency, right? We can just pass that in directly. Before I do go on, let me take a pause here and make sure everyone understands this, understand what happened just now. If you understood, just give a thumbs up. Okay. Amazing, lovely. So that's what that's the aim of doing it this way. You're able to pass in your dependency into it. But this is not what we're trying to do. We're trying to do it in our media service class, right? But then again, remember, we don't want to make use of the actual dependency because why the actual implementation won't work off the device, all right? And we don't want to test the dependency. We want to test our class. We're not testing the dependency, we are testing our class. So even if this is a dependency that you created on your own, let's say you're in a view model and this is a service, your dependency, which is the service, you want to just test your view model. So you're keeping it streamlined and confined to what you want to test, which means every other thing, you generally tell it how to behave and how to act. Now, this is where the concepts of mocks come in, all right? And we want to mock our image picker class. And to do a mock, we can actually make use of two items. We can make use of two plugins, two developer plugins, right? Or developer dependencies. Where's our popspec.yaml? Popspec.yaml, right? So we have our dependencies and we have our developer dependencies. Developer dependencies don't get pushed out or don't get compiled along with your app when you do a Flutter build, right? They stay and only the things in your dependencies are actually compiled along with it. You don't want your tests case, your test utility or your test package to actually go out with your code. So you don't put it in the dev. You don't put it in the dependency, you put it in the dev dependencies. So I was saying there are actually two. You can make use of mocktail or we can make use of mockito. Right, one of them. I am going to make use of mocktail. I hope that's the name. And I'm just going to use mocktail this so that I can get the latest version of the dependency. And I made a mistake by putting it in here instead of in here. Right. That is our dev dependencies. We have our mocktail in here. Now, if you want to check out mocktail, we can actually do that. And mocktail pub.dev, and we would see it in here. We can read about it to get more idea of how, or a deeper idea of how to make use of mocktail. But for right now, we're going to pick out one thing, which is actually using it to create a mock. This is the for it. We have the class, the name of the class. It has to extend mock and then implement your own dependency or your own class. All right. So that's what we are going to use. We're going to copy this and we're going to replace all the values in here. When we create our mock, we're having a mock. We are depending currently on the image picker. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a mock image picker that definitely has to extend mock, but then implement image picker. Yeah. So now that you are having this, right, you can pass in the picker as a mock image picker. And guess what? Our mock image picker has our methods. So it has the methods that it has, that the original image picker has: pick image, pick media, pick video, and etc. Every other thing in there, right? But now these are I would say unimplemented methods that we then have to tell the mock how it should act when those methods are called. All right. So we have created our media service right now. And I mean, like right now, we can actually just call this and hope that it gives us the right answer. And let's see how that runs. We see a big red. Now it's telling us null is not a subtype of X file, right? And what that in a way saying is, we have this, and we have a method in this image picker called pick image, right? But currently, pick image has no idea how to act when it's called, right? It has no idea how to act when it's called, right? There are two ways to do this. You can actually just try and do a pick image, override it, yeah, and then what's it called? Let's say we just tell it to print hello file and return no, or rather, yeah, return no. But remember, it's a future, so it has to have an async. All right, we can do it like this. All right, we've told it how to act in here. Yeah, we have told it how to act in here, what to do when the pick image is now called. And then now when we run this again, now the only reason why it's failing, yeah, it's because it's expected a feature of file, but instead it's got, a feature of a nullable file. All right, so basically it was null, and then it wasn't file that was returned. Let's make it test. Let's make it pass and say return X file dot from data 1, 2, 3. I hope this actually gives us something. This is a list of ints, but a uint list is not the same as that. So you have to do just we don't necessarily have to stay with this one or keep it very much in our heads. Currently we have the int of length 5. All right, so it's actually going to return a file to us, and the file is going to be with this one. So now let's run it again and actually see what happens. It says this wait, the futures are going to come for us, and it's still giving us an issue. Expected what they call it, a file, but actual got an underscore file, right? Okay, so this is it's partially expected, right? If you do this, I'm going to search, I'm going to give it an underscore file, right? This is what the type it's actually returning. But remember, underscore means it's private, we can actually access it, right? So we can't actually use that. Now we're going to come back to not mocktail, but then Flutter tests. I'm going to just do this. I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to open Flutter tests just to sketch you something. Where is it? Oh, okay. Yeah, Flutter test. It took us to this. Should it take us to this? We're going to come to the matcher. While we're coming to the matcher, right? I want to get us a particular thing. Is no, it's not is. Okay, this is what I'm looking for. Right. So remember that this expect takes in the actual, what you want to confirm, and then the matcher. All right. Now this matcher, it can be of any type. It can be a type matcher, it can be a range matcher, anything, right? But let's say now, right now, you want to confirm the type, all right? So this is how it should be. You want to confirm that whatever value is before the comma is a, and then you pass in the type of it, right? So we can say the result of this is a file. And we can also say expect that this same result is not null. All right. Now this is not null, is also a matcher. All right. So it's going to go into this, well. All right. So let's see how that runs again. So now our method has run, right? We have successfully written a test. First of all, let's see some hand claps. We have written a test. That makes use of a dependency. If you are with me, let me see some hand claps. Wonderful. Thank you, Precious. Thank you, Utmed. Thank you, Lukman. Exactly. Wonderful. Right. So now we want to actually make this. Still again, you want to make it dynamic, right? Because let's say right now we want to make a second test case, right? But now it should be that when called an image not picked, it should return null. Generally, you want to make sure that this is now null, right? I don't verify if it's a file or not. Let's keep it out for now. But right now, we can't tell this get image to give us null because we've already told it to give us not null. Except now you want to go and create another class and say, okay, this one is for null, is a mock null image picker, then override it in there. All right. But that's a long route. Let's not do that. All right. Now there's something that comes with again, we are always using our documentation, so that I'm just putting it out there so that if you ever face any issue, the first place you'd come to will be the documentation. All right. Now we want to do something called a stub, right? We want to create a stub and then verify a call. What is a stub? I don't know the actual English definition for it. All right. This is not what we are looking for, right? But a stub in this case is what we can call, what I would say maybe would be like a fake, right? We want to create, let's just say if an implementation. I really wish I could find like the meaning of a stub in here, right? But then if it comes to mind again, well, while we are still on this, I would say the meaning, right? But right now we removed our overriding method in this, right? And let's see if you can wrap this up very, very quickly, right? Remove the overriding method in this, and now we want to create our stub. Our stub in a case, is going to be follow this particular pattern. When this, then do this, right? So when our media service, we want to create a stub on our mock. Only a mock can actually have a stub. An actual implementation can't have a stub. It's going to give you an error if you do it that way. Now, to make sure that we have access to our mock, we would want to first of all create an instance of it, right? All right, and then put it as that, and then pass that same instance into this. All right, so still the same thing. Now I want to say when our mock image picker dot pick image, and the source is image picker, image source dot gallery, right? Then we want it to then we want it to answer this is giving me some autocomplete, but I want to go with the async method and give me some x file from data uint length of 5, and then do this. So generally we are saying when this image picker, when we call pick image from the image picker with the source being the gallery, right? Do this for us. It is almost similar to what we had in here, right? But right now, we are creating it as a stub. Now, what this means is we can take this as well and bring it into the null test and say, again, I need to copy this and I need to paste this. When our image picker is picked from a gallery, we want to then answer no, right? And now we can run both tests and see that they actually pass, or let's hope they pass. I mean, if you are this, we can actually run now. Back to the question of the group, we can actually run the two at once by running the group, and then it's going to run here, and then we see that both tests pass, right? Why? Because we have told the mock how to act in each case, right? We did not just override it in here. We told it how to act in each case, right? So you tell your dependencies how to act. In any ways, you stub your dependencies, right? Or the methods of your dependencies, right? Now, this is one thing. Now, we also want to test for another use case, right? But this is where it's going to be like a duplicate, but let's still see it. All right, we want to test that the image is not picked, but this time we want it to be dot camera, right? Now we have told our method when pick image is called with the image source being the camera, return null. But remember, we still have our gallery from gallery to be true. We are not going to change it. We're going to run it and we're going to see the outcome to show you how it picks the details of your tests or of your of the setup of your tests. All right, it picks those details out. Yeah. Now it has failed currently. Why? Because our image source is not camera, is not gallery, but it's camera. Right, so we change this to false. Right, and then we run this, and then now we see that it has passed. All right, now I want to do one more thing. There are some things out of the box of your mocking package that can make your writing tests easier, right? There are some things that can actually make your tests easier. Now, that would be the use of still matchers, right? Hold on. Argument matcher is what it is called. It's called an argument matcher, right? Now, it can be used for both positional parameters or positional arguments and named arguments. If it's for a positional argument, let's say this wasn't here, we wouldn't need to put this in here, right? But now, since it's a named parameter, we use the keyword any, right? And then make sure that this is make sure that the name of the argument itself is passed into the named argument of the any matcher. All right. Now with this any, we can then merge this test and this test together. All right. Now, as long as any of them comes in, take it and use it, but make sure it returns null. Which means whether it is hold on. Okay. So it's telling us to do something called registering a fallback value. The matcher by default is able to match primitive types in the sense of integers, strings, doubles, booleans, etc. It's able to match those. But right now, what we are trying to match is something called an enum called image source, right? So we want to tell it to register our fallback value as image source dot gallery, right? So if it sees that the type is not registered, it's going to check if it has a fallback value. If it has a fallback value, it's going to use that fallback value. If it doesn't, it's going to throw an error for you, right? So now we're going to run this, and we're going to say that it passes. But then again, I want to change this to false. I'm going to use this instead. I think we all know that syntax. It inverses the Boolean value, and we see that it still runs, right? Now, what happens to this is that it is matching any of the incoming values. Either it's image source dot gallery, image source dot camera. It is matching it for this test, right? Now, there's another thing we can do, just to make sure that we are on track. It's called verify, and this, I think, is one of the last what's the name? The last mocktail methods I'll be showing you today. All right, one of the last. All right, so now what we are saying is we want to verify that a particular thing is called, or better, verify that a particular method is called. Now you can also pass in the number, the counts that you want it to be called with. All right, now we can see from the documentation, it can have called twice, called greater than 3, called. You can see how it works in here. You can also check the documentation on Mocktail to get more information. All right, now we can check that the image source is actually a gallery. We can verify that. Do you get? Now, if we are not using a gallery like we are using right now, it is going to fail. Why? Because your verification is telling you it must use a gallery. But right now, it is telling you that it's using image source.camera. So your test is going to fail. Now, what that means is that if you have this method in your production application and then a developer comes and changes or inverses the Boolean value for this, your test is going to pick that up and it won't push to production if that's the blocker for it. But now we're going to come over here and then we are going to run it again, and then we see that it is actually code. Yeah. So I'm going to do one wrap up, or rather one cleanup, one more case. That's the success and the error case. The error case we've done for success case, one for error case, and then we call it like we then take questions. All right. So we're going to arrange this. We can see that I'm going to close this and I'm going to close this. We can see that in this get image, right, a certain number of things are repeating themselves. Right. Image picker, the mock, is replicating itself. The service itself is repeating itself. Yeah. And from gallery now is in a way dependent on your test case. But these two are not dependent on your test case. Right. So what are we going to do? We can move this out of this and take it into the group, the class group level stage. And now that we have this, it still remains the same. We can remove these two. We can then remove these two, and then our tests should still run as expected. All right. Is there any other thing that we need to do at this point, that we need to group together at this point? No. All right. You can choose to make this a variable up here and then change it before you do your tests. All right. Also, one thing we want to do is to move this guy out also. All right. Let it register a fallback value. Yeah. Now I believe this is going to give us an error, but let's try it out. Yeah. Okay, it didn't give us an error. All right. So there's sometimes you want to do a group setup. You want to have a particular set of similar set of setups that you want to do, but you want to ensure that it is done before either a group of test runs or each individual test runs. I won't show an actual implementation here. I'll just tell you what to use. All right. There's something called the setup. Setup all from here now. It tells you it registers a function to be called once before all the tests, and there's setup that runs before each test. All right. Now, after setting up, let's say you're done with your setting up, and you also want to call like a dispose method. Generally, there's also something called a teardown. Right. Now, there's a teardown all, and there's the teardown. Right. The all, it's the same method or the same format with the setup all, but it's called after tests are run. Right now, we're not going to make use of them because there's nothing we want to set up before or after each of the tests. Now, the last thing we want to do is test our error case. Right now, we have tests. We have tested our our success cases, but there's also the error case in here that throws an exception. All right, that throws an exception for us. You want to verify that an exception is actually going to be thrown when something goes haywire on this project. All right. Now, I'm going to copy some of the things from here. Why? Because it is not every time we write code from scratch. All right. So we have this, and now we have this. When image picker is called, we want it to throw an error instead. All right. Now we want it to throw an error. Now the error that we want it to throw, in this case, we're going to make it an object. There's a, what's it called? You can try to term it this way or group it this way for easy remembrance. You're having then return is for synchronous calls, that is things that are not futures. We have then answer for things that are futures, and then we have then throw for errors. Right. So we're going to throw an exception that says let's use this, an error code by retrieving a message. All right. But then again, we want to make sure that we are able to test that the result is null. The result should be null if an error is thrown here. And that is not really correct. Yeah. The result itself wouldn't be reached because an error occurred. All right. The result is the end game, right? The result is a result of the method finishing. I hope that makes sense. The result is not a result of the function throwing an error. Does that make sense? And then is anybody still hearing me? All right. Thank you. All right. So we have our error case here, right? And then what we want to do is to also expect that our method, our function throws us an error, right? There's a way you can do that, right? By using the expect, right? We can expect that this guy, all right, I can put this guy in here, actually throws, I mean, let's use the throws exception matcher. You can, if you have your own type, your own error type, you can always do it this way, throws an exception, right? I like to do it this way, right? Throws an is exception. So you won't watch for the exact error itself, but I will in this case watch for the error type. Do you understand? Right. So it throws something that should be an exception of a type of exception, right? And then we don't need this anymore. And then let's us run through this. And we should actually put in what's it called? And then I want to show you different ways. Right, so we actually put in this and expect that throws us an error. Next, your mic is on mute. All right. So yes. So now this is what we're trying to do. This is our error case for it. We are throwing the error. We're telling the dependency to throw an error, and we are expecting that our method actually throws an error. All right. So this is what's it called? Success case. A success case when it is null. You can actually remove this right now because it's a duplicate. All right, and this is our error case when called and pick image throws an exception, it should throw an exception. All right, so this is our test description, and this is our test. We have tested right now for 2 success cases and 1 error case. Yeah. Let me see. Okay, yes, first off, this is where we would let's just say call it a test for the dependency, where we've been able to look at using dependencies, or rather, yes, dependency injection. Though this one using dependency injection, this is a direct dependency injection using mocks, and then using, or rather, testing for error cases. And also, as an added, we got to understand how using stubs and matchers, right? And also verify. All right. So, are there any questions so far? If anyone has any question, this is a good time to ask. Anyone here? Where are my regular guys? Where are my regular guys? Okay, so I will assume that there are no questions and everyone understands this, right? So I'm going to go back and then ask a question that I mentioned earlier. With what you have seen right now, do you agree that tests should be written? Do you agree that it's important to write tests? All right. You can just formulate an answer in your mind, right? Try and give yourself a concrete reason and then stick to that. If you believe that tests shouldn't be written, I would say it's still good and fine. If you believe that tests should be written still good and fine. All right. But I would say pick one, stay true to it. That's what I would say. Yeah. And since there are no questions, yeah. Mercy, back to you, I guess. Or if you have any questions for me.
Yeah, right. Thank you so much for that section. So you make 15 minutes. All right, so you asked a question. I don't know if anyone wants to answer that.
Interesting. Augustine, Precious, Kelechi, Usman.
Yeah, I think tests should be written, and from this example that we used in this class, it is evident that it's very important because you really can't test like something like maybe returning null or stuff like that. You can just try and okay, maybe if I open the gallery, if I cancel, those are like what you can do manually. But writing proper test class like this helps to kind of test for almost all cases of issues that can come up with a particular logic. So I think writing tests is very important.
Amazing. Okay. Any other person want to make an input or say an answer? All right. It's all cool. It's all good. Mercy. Message back to you.
Alright, so yeah, thank you so much. So thank you. Come to the end of the class. Thank you so much for joining. So you guys can get the recording later.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have fun.
Thank you very much, boss.